Pull up a chair in the shadows, lean in close, because today we're venturing into a world shrouded in mystery, betrayal, and the chilling whisper of a very old, very dark voice.
Definitely dark.
When you think of the Dark Brotherhood, what instantly comes to mind? Is it the black robes, maybe shimmering in moonlight, the glint of a bloodstained dagger, or perhaps that iconic, utterly unforgettable chant that echoes through the annals of Tamrielic lore?
Sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear.
Yeah.
Now, it's a phrase that doesn't just conjure images of dread. It feels like an ancient whispered prayer, doesn't it? A grim promise of death for those deemed to have offended someone. It has a deeply unsettling tone.
It truly does. The very air around them feels thick with secrets, a sense of inevitable doom for their targets, and an almost sacred devotion to their craft. But here's the central question we're tackling today, the core inquiry of this deep dive that we invite you to ponder with us. Is the Dark Brotherhood truly a unified, devout cult, blindly following ancient traditions in service to some primordial cosmic force?
Hold on.
Or is it, at its heart, a fragmented, cynical business of assassins, driven purely by the earthly pursuits of profit and power? Or perhaps, as we peel back the layers and delve deeper into the often conflicting narratives of their lore, will we uncover something else entirely, something far more complicated, a blend of both, or even, a masquerade?
It's a fascinating dichotomy because their extensive history is anything but straightforward. We have sources that paint them as religious zealots, utterly devoted to cosmic entities,
right?
And others that present them as cold, calculated killers for hire with a focus on efficiency and financial gain. It's messy.
So to truly begin to understand this, we need to meet the enigmatic powers at play, the figures who either inspire their devotion or maybe dictate their contracts.
Absolutely. First, there's Sithis.
Sithis.
Often called the Dreadfather, the Serpent of Chaos, even the Unmaker.
Powerful titles.
Very. The Brotherhood sees him as the ultimate primordial force of change and nothingness. He's not Adric like the Divines, and he's not Daedric like the Princes from Oblivion.
So it's something else entirely.
Exactly. Sithis is, in their cosmology, the very embodiment of is not, the fundamental force that constantly disrupts stasis and brings about change, often through destruction. The belief within the Brotherhood is that souls, especially those claimed in his name through assassination, are sent directly to the void.
The void. His endless, formless realm that lies beyond both oblivion and Aetheris.
Precisely. The ultimate nothingness.
Okay, so that's Sithis. Then who else?
And then we have the truly mysterious Night Mother. She's revered as an immortal spirit, the one who hears the Black Sacrament, that chilling ritual we just mentioned, and then guides the entire guild, relaying the demands for death to her chosen listener. Her true origins, as we'll soon discover, are just as obscured and contradictory as the deepest shadows the Brotherhood inhabits. Is she a deity? A spirit? Just a title? Her nature is really, really debated in the lore.
Always circling back to that ambiguity, isn't it?
Always.
And finally, a pivotal figure within the mortal ranks, the listener.
Yes, the listener.
This is the chosen mortal who is uniquely attuned to the Night Mother, able to telepathically hear her whispers and relay her contracts to the rest of the Brotherhood. Their role is absolutely critical, acting as the direct living conduit between the spiritual head and the operational arm of the guild, the very heartbeat of the organization.
Couldn't run without them, really. So, our mission today is clear: to sift through numerous, often conflicting sources, from ancient journals and historical accounts to internal Brotherhood texts and even, the testimonies of those who've encountered them.
And we're not looking for one definitive, simple truth, are we? Because frankly, it might not even exist with such a shadowy and self-mythologizing organization.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to explore the various facets and interpretations of the Brotherhood's complex history, their foundational beliefs, their rituals, and their eventual, pretty dramatic decline. We'll try to bring out the surprising facts, connect the dots between disparate pieces of lore, and uncover those crucial nuggets of knowledge that will leave you truly well-informed about one of Tamriel's most infamous and enduring organizations.
Okay. With these enigmatic figures now in mind, it begs the question, how did such a dark organization even come to be? Let's peel back the layers and uncover the often bloody origins of the Dark Brotherhood, beginning with a surprising fact that challenges a very common misconception.
Right. When we talk about ancient organizations in Tamriel, it's easy to assume they've always existed, shrouded in the mists of time, their beginnings lost to antiquity.
Yeah, you just assume they were always there, lurking.
But here's a surprising fact that immediately complicates the narrative. The Dark Brotherhood, as we know it, is not timeless. This organization, with its distinct structure and rituals, actually emerged relatively recently in the Second Era.
Relatively recently, so not ancient then.
In the grand scheme of Tamrielic history, no. Quite young compared to some of the world's other long-standing factions.
That is surprising. Do we know when?
We have some clues. Early recorded evidence gives us some concrete hints about their actual genesis.
Okay.
For instance, there's a fascinating, almost clandestine note from 2E 358, that's the Second Era, 358 years in, found tucked away beneath the floorboards of an abandoned house in the Nordic village of Jalenheim.
Okay.
This note, addressed simply to Brother, hints at a clandestine war between two shadowy organizations, one of which is clearly new and asserting itself. Scholars widely speculate this is one of the very first recorded pieces of evidence directly mentioning the Dark Brotherhood's existence.
So around 2E358.
Possibly starting then, yes. And just a few decades later, around 2E412, the Blood Queen Arla Mahera of Hegath, a city in Hammerfell, mentions in her personal journals that her family had been using the Dark Brotherhood's services since her grandfather's time.
Wow. So combining those.
It strongly suggests the Brotherhood formed around 2E358 or maybe 360 at the absolute latest. So far from being eternal, they had a definite traceable starting point.
Which immediately raises questions about why they formed and from what.
And that starting point is inextricably linked to an older, far more established, and indeed more ancient Dunmer assassin guild, the Morag Tong.
Ah, the Morag Tong. I knew they'd come up.
Of course. This organization has been active since at least the First Era, headquartered in the Ashlands of Morrowind, and famously known for performing what they called legal executions under formal writs.
Legal executions, so they were sanctioned, like official murderers.
Essentially, yes, within Morrowind.
Yeah.
A chilling concept in itself.
Absolutely wild. Now, their deity is crucial here, right?
Crucial. The Morag Tong explicitly worshipped the Daedric prince Mephala, the web spinner, also known as Black Hands Mephala. She's the Daedric prince associated with murder, lies, secrets, and weaving intricate webs of intrigue and deceit.
Ooh, web spinner. Okay.
And while the Tong also revered Sithis as a force of primordial chaos, Mephala was their primary patron, their guiding light in the shadows.
So they had Sithis too, but Mephala was number one for them.
Pretty much, yeah. Mephala's influence on the Morag Tong was very specific and deeply embedded in their practices. She encouraged what they called ritual murders for her glory.
Ritual murders.
With a particular emphasis on those stemming from hate and specifically targeting great men and women, those whose demise would cause the most disruption and weave the most complex threads of fate.
So it wasn't just about killing, it was about the why and the who, elevating assassination to a twisted, ritualistic form of worship, directly serving the web spinner's desires for chaos.
Precisely. It's about making things messy and complicated for Mephala's amusement.
Okay, now for the truly dramatic turning point that addresses our central question head-on, the major schism. There are at least 3 conflicting accounts of how the Dark Brotherhood came to be, each offering a wildly different narrative.
Right. And this is where the core question of unified cult versus fragmented business really starts to get murky, as each origin story suggests a different primary motivation for their existence.
Let's dig in. What's the first one?
Let's begin with the most common scholarly theory, often referred to as Account 1, the religious divide. This account posits a direct splintering from the Morag Tong due to a shift in their religious practices and their newfound notoriety.
Notoriety. What did they do?
Well, the historical context here is vital. The Morag Tong had become incredibly bold, perhaps even reckless. They assassinated Emperor Roman III in 1E 2920.
The Emperor?
Yep. And then, brazenly, his successor, Potentate Versailles, the Kothringi ruler of the Second Empire, in 2E 324. They were, in the words of one source, brazen, drunk with murder, even scrawling Morag Tong in blood on palace walls for all to see.
Wow. Just writing their name in blood. After killing the leader of the empire. The audacity.
Incredible, isn't it? Naturally, this did not go over well across the rest of Tamriel. The Morag Tong was instantly and unanimously outlawed across all provinces, with the sole exception of Morrowind, their homeland, where their writs still held sway within the great houses.
So they were basically forced underground everywhere else, an existential crisis for them?
Exactly. To survive outside of Morrowind, where they were now hunted, the theory goes that the Morag Tong allegedly appealed to the tribunal Almalexia, Soka Sil, and Vek, the then-ruling god-kings of Morrowind.
Okay, what did they offer?
They supposedly agreed to cease their overt worship of Mephala in favor of Vic, one of the tribunal, and to limit their activities strictly to traditional interhouse rivalries within Morrowind itself. A pact born of necessity, really. A sacrifice of their primary patron for survival.
And this is where the split, the schism, occurs according to this theory.
Precisely. A significant faction within the Morag Tong apparently objected vehemently to abandoning Mephala, whom they saw as their true patron. They sought a new path, retaining their reverence for her, though maybe not by explicit name anymore, and pushing the worship of Sithis, the primordial void, to the forefront.
Ah, so this new group became the Dark Brotherhood.
So according to this theory, yes. Initially perceived as a more secular, murder-for-profit organization that had shed the overt religious trappings of its parent guild, focusing on efficiency and opportunity across Tamriel rather than just Morrowind.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Always. This neat narrative runs into a fascinating and often cited contradiction. There's a scene in the historical fiction 2920, Sun's Height, which is an account of the year Emperor Rama III was assassinated.
Okay.
In this text, the Night Mother, who at this point is clearly presented as a prominent leader of the Morag Tong, meets with the enigmatic Sithis. She explicitly tells him that the Morag Tong murders for the glory of Mephala and for profit, and that they do not merely kill. That would be sacrilege.
Wait, so she says both Mephala and profit. Way back then.
Exactly. She even defiantly states, "We do not bow to supply and demand," when Sithis tries to counteroffer her for not assassinating the Emperor.
And Sithis, being the master manipulator he is...
He then subtly sabotages the Duke's payment to the Morag Tong, thinking to himself, everyone bows to supply and demand. This very scene suggests the Morag Tong was already worshipping Mephala and was business-oriented well before this alleged schism.
So it massively complicates the idea that the Dark Brotherhood split solely on religious grounds, abandoning Mephala, or solely to become business-focused.
It really does. Perhaps the lines between sacred devotion and mercenary pragmatism were far blurrier within the Morag Tong itself from the very beginning, making the true impetus for the split even more mysterious.
Fascinating. Okay, so that's account 1, the religious divide, but with a major complication. What's account 2?
Right, account 2 sees this as direct command. This is the Dark Brotherhood's own cherished foundational legend. This is the story they tell themselves, the sacred truth they uphold.
Their internal story.
It speaks of a respected Morag Tong member, a dark elf woman from a village near Bravel, who held the title of Night Mother within her specific sect of the Tong.
So Night Mother was maybe a title first.
Possibly. Within the Tong, yes. This woman, according to the legend, claimed to hear Sithis' voice directly, echoing from the primordial void itself. Sithis, the Dreadfather, was reportedly displeased with the Morag Tong's lack of success, specifically stating that the void, hungry for souls, and was not being adequately fed by their current operations. He tasked her, this mortal woman, with setting things right, with fulfilling his insatiable hunger.
Setting things right. How?
And here's where it gets really interesting and incredibly grim, solidifying the cult aspect of their potential identity. Sithis allegedly visited her, in a manner of speaking.
Visited her?
And she bore him 5 children, conceived through union described only as void-touched. Then 2 years later, she performed the unthinkable, an act of unimaginable horror. She murdered all 5 of her own innocent children.
No.
Sending their pure souls directly to the void, to their Dreadfather, as the ultimate, most profound sacrifice imaginable to feed his insatiable hunger for the disruption of existence.
That's beyond horrifying. What happened to her?
The villagers, understandably appalled by this atrocious, unspeakable act, rose up and killed her in turn, burning down her house to purge the evil. But the story doesn't end there. It's merely the beginning of the Dark Brotherhood's true genesis.
How so?
30 years later, an unnamed man heard her voice, the voice of the now spiritual Night Mother, reaching out from the void, and was named the Listener. He was tasked by her with founding a new guild, the Dark Brotherhood, one solely and devoutly devoted to Sithis.
A new guild mandated by her spirit and Sithis.
Its new explicit purpose, to marry business with death, and crucially, to swell the void with fresh souls through widespread assassination. This is their origin story, a divine mandate for murder, steeped in blood and cosmic purpose.
Wow, okay, that's a powerful, if terrifying, founding myth. What's the third account?
And then we have account 3, the Thieves' Guild offshoot. This is a more controversial theory put forth by an author named Enric Milris. This account diverges wildly.
The Thieves' Guild? Really?
Really. It claims the Dark Brotherhood originated not from the venerable Morag Tong, but from a different criminal element entirely, the Thieves' Guild. Some Thieves' Guild members, it suggests, found it efficacious to strangle the occupant of the house during burglaries simply for convenience.
Just efficiency. To ensure silence and eliminate witnesses?
That's
Cold.
very pragmatic, not spiritual at all. This woman, who would later become the Night Mother, according to this theory, saw the potential in this practice and proposed formalizing murder within the Thieves' Guild itself, making it an official service.
And the guild said.
The guild leadership, ever pragmatic themselves, refused. They believed it would be bad for business, that outright organized murder would draw far too much unwanted attention from authorities and make their core business of thievery too risky.
Makes sense from their perspective. So she...
Undeterred and seeing a clear market demand, she struck out on her own. She founded her own murder syndicate, realizing there was a profit to be made from sudden death, a niche that wasn't being fully exploited.
And she developed that calling card, right? The stones?
Exactly. She developed a macabre calling card, a signature that would become infamous, placing 2 stones, one black and one white, in her victim's eyes, a chilling sign of her handiwork.
That image is just... ugh. So, in this theory, where does the Morag Tong connection come in?
That's the fascinating part. The connection to the Morag Tong in this account only emerged after the assassination of potentate Severian Chorak in 2E 430 or 431, many decades after this syndicate's alleged formation.
So much later.
Much later. It was then that several Tong assassins quit that struggling organization, maybe disillusioned by their outlawed status or their perceived betrayal of Mafala, and joined the upstart syndicate. So the Morag Tong connection would have been a later opportunistic merger, not the primary origin, if this theory holds true.
Okay, that's completely different. But you mentioned something about the author.
Ah, yes. And here's the most intriguing and perhaps morbidly validating detail for this particular theory. The author of this account, Enric Milris, was murdered shortly after its publication.
Murder! How?
He was strangled, and 2 stones, a black one and a white one, crushed into his eye sockets, very brutally.
No way!
Yeah.
The exact calling card he described.
The very same. This act suggests that someone, perhaps the Brotherhood itself, found his true history a little too true for comfort and sought to silence him, reinforcing the idea that their truth is a carefully constructed, fiercely guarded narrative.
What a way to confirm your theory, or at least to add a layer of terrifying credibility to it. So when we look at these conflicting origin stories, the religious schism, the divine mandate from Sithis, the pragmatic Thieves' Guild offshoot, you can truly see how they highlight that central question for us.
Definitely. Is the Dark Brotherhood a unified, devout cult following Sithis, like their legend claims? Or are they a fragmented, cynical business, maybe stemming from pragmatic thieves or disgruntled Morag Tong members, driven purely by profit? Each account offers a piece of the puzzle, and none fully resolves the others.
It leaves us pondering the shifting, bloody shadows of their true beginnings. It's almost as if the Brotherhood's very identity is a reflection of the many paths to murder.
Okay, let's dive deeper now into what the Dark Brotherhood themselves believe to be the Night Mother's truth, and how this horrifying foundational myth shapes their operations, their very identity, and their unique hierarchy.
Right, we've touched upon it already, but it's worth reiterating the gruesome founding myth that is central to their faith and their understanding of their cosmic purpose.
The one where she sacrifices her children. Exactly. This core narrative, as told within the Brotherhood and enshrined in their most sacred texts like the Night Mother's truth, states that a mortal dark elf woman, once a high-ranking Morag Tong Night Mother, was specifically chosen by Sithis. She bore his 5 void-touched children, and then, 2 years later, she murdered all 5 of them as the ultimate act of devotion to the Dread Lord, sending their pure souls directly to the void.
For the Brotherhood, it's not just horror, it's the ultimate act of devotion. The purest service to Sithis.
Precisely. And the aftermath is just as impactful, solidifying the spiritual legacy of the Night Mother. The villagers killed her and burned her house.
Understandably.
But death wasn't the end. 30 years later, her spirit, the Night Mother, speaking from the void, reached out to an unnamed man, naming him Listener, and commanding him to form the Dark Brotherhood, solely devoted to Sithis. Her physical body and the remains of her children were later recovered and interred beneath her former house.
Which is where the lucky old lady statue in Braveville now stands.
That's the spot, a macabre pilgrimage site. You can literally stand on the physical remnants of their dark genesis.
Chilling. But it's crucial to remember this is their story. right?
Absolutely. It's their foundational myth, the one they largely subscribe to. However, the very existence of those other contrasting narratives, the Thieves Guild theory, the Morag Tong title theory, makes her true nature truly enigmatic. It forces us, and perhaps even some within the Brotherhood's more cynical branches, to question the absolute truth even of their most sacred stories.
Highlighting the complex, often contradictory nature of their lore. Maybe their faith is built upon a legend as much as a fact.
It's very possible.
Pivotal to the entire Brotherhood structure, second only to the Night Mother herself, is the listener. This individual holds a truly critical and almost sacred role.
Absolutely central. They are the sole mortal who can telepathically communicate directly with the Night Mother, hearing her strange, comforting voice and her whispers directly in their mind. No one else gets that direct line.
The sole conduit for the Dreadfather's will, as interpreted by his consort. How is a listener chosen?
The Night Mother chooses her listener in a moment of spiritual communion, revealing a secret phrase known as the binding words. Darkness rises when silence dies.
Darkness rises when silence dies.
Okay, this phrase, and only this phrase, must then be spoken aloud to the keeper who guards the Night Mother's physical body for confirmation.
So it's a secret test.
Exactly. It underscores the profound secrecy, the internal validation, and the spiritual authenticity required within their leadership. You can't just claim the title. You have to pass this specific, hidden, almost mystical test.
Once the listener hears a contract from the Night Mother, a name, location, maybe a method.
Usually, yes. They don't necessarily carry it out themselves immediately. Instead, they act as a central hub. They relay the details to the four speakers.
The rest of the Black Hand?
Right. The speakers then pass it on to the various Brotherhood sanctuaries scattered across Tamriel, or directly to their personal assassins, known as silencers, or sometimes even meet the invoker of the Black Sacrament themselves.
It's a precise and chilling chain of command. A dark, bureaucratic process ensuring contracts are executed and souls are delivered to the void.
And listeners are treated with immense respect and deference by everyone else, even the powerful speakers. The relationship between the Night Mother and the listener is described as incredibly intimate.
Intimate? How so?
It goes beyond mere contract relaying. We see instances where the Night Mother speaks to the listener about personal guild matters, offering counsel or expressing concern, like about Cicero's safety or Astrid's fate. It suggests a deep, almost maternal or confiding bond.
That reinforces the cult aspect, doesn't it? The listener is more than just a messenger. They're a confidant of the divine, or what they perceive as divine.
Exactly. And we've had a few notable listeners throughout history, their fates often tied to the Brotherhood's rise and fall.
Like who?
There was Ungolem, a Bosmer listener killed in 3E 433 due to Matthew Bellamont's manipulations. His death opened the door for the hero of Kavach, the player in Oblivion, to become listener after thwarting Bellamont's plot.
So the player character became the listener.
Yep, and was then responsible for rebuilding the crippled Siredale branch. Later, in the Fourth Era, we saw Alysande Dupree, a Breton listener whose own father, Uther Nir, orchestrated her death and attacked the Night Mother's crypt.
Her own father. Brutal.
And of course, in 4201, during the Dragon Crisis, if you, as the last Dragonborn, chose to join the Brotherhood instead of destroying it, you could become the listener.
And assassinate Emperor Titus II, right?
A major historical event, yes. And then relocate the Brotherhood to Dawnstar, signaling a potential rebirth guided by the Night Mother's renewed voice after years of silence. It's a role with immense power and responsibility.
But it's high stakes. What happens if someone fakes it? Pretends to be the listener?
Severe, immediate penalties. They take their spiritual connection very seriously. In 4E 189, after Alysande Dupree's death, a speaker named Rasha tried it. When he couldn't recite the sacred binding words to Cicero the Keeper, he was exposed as a liar and swiftly killed by the assassin Garnag. Clear message. Don't fake a divine mandate.
Definitely noted. Okay, let's talk about the ritual that starts it all, the spark that ignites their bloody business, the Black Sacrament.
Ah, yes. The macabre rite performed by someone desperate enough, hateful enough, or maybe just pragmatic enough to summon the Brotherhood and see another person dead. A request delivered directly to the void.
How does it work? It sounds unpleasant.
It's incredibly specific, deeply unsettling, and deliberately gruesome, designed to get the Night Mother's attention. First, the invoker must create an effigy of the intended victim.
An effigy? Like a doll?
Sort of, but
yeah.
It must be assembled from actual body parts of a human or humanoid heart, skull, bones, flesh.
Oh, gods, where would someone even get those? The desperation.
Exactly. This effigy is then encircled with black candles, casting flickering, ominous shadows.
Imagine doing that in secret. The psychological toll.
Immense. Once the effigy is ready, the ritual itself begins. The invoker repeatedly stabs the effigy with a dagger rubbed with nightshade petals, a poisonous herb.
Nightshade.
All while whispering, chanting, or sometimes even screaming that iconic, ominous plea. Sweet mother, send your child unto me, for the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear.
And this actually works. The Night Mother hears it.
According to their beliefs, yes. This dark ritual allows her to hear the pleas, piercing the veil between worlds. She then communicates the contract details to her listener.
And the listener sets the assassination machine in motion.
From there, it goes down the chain of command, ensuring the unworthy are baptized in blood. It's the spiritual key to their bloody business, where desperation meets the cold, efficient, religiously mandated machinery of the Brotherhood.
Chilling. Okay, and finally, let's unpack the internal structure and rules that govern these assassins. The Black Hand and the 5 tenets.
Right. The Black Hand is the literal ruling body of the Dark Brotherhood. It's shadowy leadership. It's composed of the listener, who acts as the thumb, the directing force.
A thumb, okay.
And 4 speakers, representing the fingers, carrying out the Night Mother's will and leading the various sanctuaries. Members are easily identified by their distinct black robes.
So listener plus 4 speakers. Got it.
Each speaker also has a personal assassin, a highly skilled operative known as a silencer. They're the nails of the fingers, carrying out their speaker's direct and most sensitive orders.
Thumb, fingers, nails. Makes sense. And the keeper.
Additionally, a keeper is appointed.
Yeah.
Their solemn duty is to safeguard the Night Mother's physical body, those preserved remains, and maintain the spiritual conduit between her and the listener.
Part spiritual guardian, part embalmer.
Kind of, yeah. A fascinating role.
And binding them all together are the 5 tenets, the fundamental rules, right? Almost divine commandments.
Or just highly effective operational guidelines, depending on your perspective.
Let's hear them.
Okay. Tenet 1, never dishonor the Night Mother, absolute loyalty to the leader.
Makes sense.
Tenet 2, never betray the Dark Brotherhood or its secrets, operational security.
Crucial for assassins.
Tenet 3, never disobey or refuse a superior's order, clear chain of command.
Efficient.
Tenet 4, never steal from a dark brother or dark sister, fosters internal trust.
Avoids infighting over loot.
And Tenet 5, never kill a dark brother or dark sister. This one is huge. Prevents internal feuds, preserves strength. Absolutely critical for a guild built on murder.
So what happens if you break one? Just kicked out.
Oh, much worse. Breaking a tenet invokes the wrath of Sithis.
The wrath of Sithis, what is that?
Not just a phrase. It's a terrifying, vengeful spirit, often appearing as a gloom wraith, that actively hunts down traitors.
Hunts them down.
And drags their very souls directly to the void. Denies them any afterlife, any peace. It's cosmic damnation, far worse than mere expulsion. A chilling reminder of Sithis' absolute dominion.
Yikes. Okay, and then there's purification. That sounds ominous.
It is. The ultimate, rarely performed rite of internal cleansing. Truly brutal. Only carried out 3 times in their history.
What does it involve?
It involves the purposeful extermination of an entire sanctuary by the Black Hand itself. Loyal members are ordered to kill all their fellow assassins within that sanctuary.
They kill their own brothers and sisters. Why?
To cleanse the Brotherhood of deep-seated mistrust, suspected treachery, or overwhelming corruption. The souls are often to Sithis, and it eliminates any hidden traitors. It's a brutal, self-inflicted wound meant to preserve the integrity of the whole.
A stark demonstration of their commitment to their creed, or maybe their desperation when internal rot threatened to consume them, speaks to the fear that must exist in an organization like that.
Absolutely. Paranoia must be rampant.
The Dark Brotherhood, despite its mystique, its rituals, its tenets, it hasn't exactly had a smooth ride, has it? They face devastating losses, spiraling into what some would call its darkest hours.
Definitely not smooth. It's a testament to their resilience, or maybe just their sheer stubbornness, that they've managed to persist at all. Let's look at this long, agonizing decline.
Where did the problems start?
Well, one early and significant sign of their vulnerability and that enduring rivalry was the Morrowind foothold failure in 3E 427. The Brotherhood tried to gain influence on Vivardenfell.
Lucrative territory, I bet.
Very. But their local Night Mother, Severa Magia, was assassinated by none other than the Morag Tong.
The old rivals strike back.
Exactly. This direct attack led to the decimation of the Brotherhood in that province. It proved that even centuries after the supposed schism, the Tong remained a formidable, hostile force. and the Brotherhood wasn't invincible.
A serious blow. What came next?
Fast forward just 6 years to the Oblivion Crisis era, around 3E433. This is where we witness perhaps their most devastating internal betrayal, a plot masterminded by Matthew Bellamont.
Bellamont. He was a speaker, right? High up.
A trusted speaker, yes, privy to their deepest secrets. But he secretly sought to destroy the entire Brotherhood from within.
Why? Revenge.
Precisely. Revenge for the assassination of his own mother by the Guild years prior. It shows how their own actions could sow the seeds of their destruction.
How did he do it?
He was exceptionally cunning, using their own rules against them. He manipulated Lucien Lachance's silencer, who, for you, the listener, was the hero of Kvatch, the player character in Oblivion.
Right, the player again.
Into unknowingly carrying out a purification of the Cheydinhal Sanctuary.
A fake purification.
Exactly. Systematically eliminating many innocent members and even half of the Black Hand under false pretenses, all driven by Belmont's deceptive orders. Imagine the horror and confusion, killing your own, believing it was Sithis' will.
When it was just one man's vendetta, how did it end?
The insidious plot finally unraveled at the Night Mother's crypt, the very heart of their spiritual power. Bellamont revealed his true intentions, killed 2 more speakers before he was finally slain by the hero of Kvatch.
Who then became the listener?
Tragically, yes, the only living conduit. The consequences were dire. The Cyrodiil branch was severely crippled, losing key members, half its Black Hand. It was left to the hero of Kvatch to painstakingly rebuild an organization torn apart by its own demons.
What a mess. Did things improve after that?
Not really. The bleeding didn't stop. In many ways, it was just beginning. The long decline continued well into the 4th era, roughly between 4E186 and 200. A relentless combination of external pressures and internal division took a heavy toll.
Like what?
The Great War, for instance, which engulfed much of Tamriel, strained the organization immensely. Riots in major cities like Bravil, Bruma, and Cheydinhal led to sanctuaries being destroyed or evacuated. They were forced to abandon strongholds. Their entire presence in Hammerfell was eliminated.
Losing ground everywhere.
Pretty much. This was more than just property loss. It was a devastating blow to their network, their morale, their ability to operate.
And internally, were they united?
Not at all. Adding to the external chaos, the surviving Black Hand itself was deeply divided, constantly arguing over expansion versus consolidation.
Trying to grow or just survive.
Right. This ideological split only contributed to widespread disorganization and demoralization. We see sanctuaries falling one by one. Bruma lost in 4E186, Werest in 4E188, Corinth closed down. By 4E187, only 4 active sanctuaries remained in all of Tamriel.
Only 4.
Eventually dwindling to just Cheydinhal and the Folkreath Sanctuary in Skyrim.
Just 2 left.
Wow.
And a particularly significant loss during this period was the Shadow Scales.
The Argonian assassins, right, born under the Shadow Sign.
Exactly. For centuries, it had been a unique tradition. Argonians born under the Shadow were given at birth to the Brotherhood for training. Their dedicated facility at Archon was abandoned, and this special connection to Black Marsh began to die out.
Losing a unique source of recruits and a piece of their identity.
A loss of manpower and a distinct, powerful tradition. Further erosion.
This brings us to what might be described as the darkest hour. The tragic tale of listener Alysanne Dupree and Cicero's profound descent into madness, spanning from 4E188 to 201.
A really grim period. In 4E188, the listener Alysanne Dupree was shockingly betrayed by her own father, Uthernir.
Her father again? What is it with family betrayal?
Right. He hired a spy, the Forgotten Hero, another player character, this time from Legends, to infiltrate the Brotherhood and orchestrate his daughter's death and, more significantly, an assault on the Night Mother's crypt.
Trying to destroy their spiritual heart.
Exactly. To break their connection to the Void entirely. Alysanne Dupree bravely died defending the Night Mother's corpse, tragically incinerated by her own father's magic. The crypt itself was destroyed.
Devastating. Was the Night Mother's body lost?
No. Incredibly,
Yeah.
an assassin named Garnag managed to heroically rescue the Night Mother's corpse from the wreckage that seemingly lifeless, decaying form and painstakingly transported it to the Cheydinhal Sanctuary.
The last bastion. An incredible act of devotion.
It really speaks volumes about their enduring faith, even then.
And this is where Cicero comes in, the keeper from Skyrim.
This is where he takes center stage. In 4E189, Cicero was appointed keeper, charged with safeguarding the Night Mother's deteriorating corpse and maintaining that crucial spiritual conduit, especially with no listener. His role became paramount.
The sole guardian of their most sacred relic. Did it work? Did she speak?
That was the problem. Despite Cicero's unwavering, almost obsessive, and increasingly bizarre care, the Night Mother remained silent for years, over a decade.
A decade of silence from their goddess figure.
Caused immense demoralization. It chipped away at their faith, their purpose. We even see that speaker desperately trying to fake being the listener.
Being killed for it.
Right. It just shows the desperation. As other members died or deserted, fleeing the dying organization, Cicero found himself increasingly isolated. Eventually, the sole remaining true member in Cyrodiil.
Alone with a silent corpse, that sounds maddening.
It clearly was. This profound isolation, the silence, the decline, it pushed him over the edge into profound madness. He progressively adopted the bizarre mannerisms of a jester.
It's a jester thing. Where did that come from?
He came to believe the spirit of his last target, a jester named Lori, had entered him. It transformed his entire persona into this disturbing caricature of devotion and lunacy.
Wow. So what did he do then?
But 4E201, in a desperate, almost suicidal attempt to find a listener and revive the old ways, the true religious path, Cicero embarked on a perilous journey, transporting the Night Mother's deteriorating corpse across Tamriel.
On his own, with the coffin.
Pretty much. To the last known active sanctuary, Falkreath in Skyrim. A Hail Mary, a final act of devotion.
Especially since that sanctuary under Astrid was run purely as a business, right? They'd abandoned the old ways.
Exactly. A stark, almost heartbreaking contrast to Cicero's devout, if unhinged, reverence.
And this brings us full circle to one of our initial questions, and that really compelling, unsettling theory surrounding the Brotherhood's true nature. The Night Mother is Mephala.
Right. This argument, particularly championed in the book Fire and Darkness, posits that the mysterious Night Mother is indeed the Daedric prince Mephala, the web spinner.
So not a mortal woman ascended, or a spirit tied to Sithis, but actually Mephala all along.
That's the theory, that the Dark Brotherhood, especially its western branches, continues to worship her as their true leader, even if they don't explicitly call her by name, perhaps to avoid the stigma of direct Daedra worship.
If that's true, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Profoundly. It recontextualizes their entire history and purpose. The idea of a schism where the Morag Tong abandoned Mephala becomes even more central to the Dark Brotherhood's raison d'etre. They wouldn't just be a new guild, they'd be a reaction against betrayal, a reestablishment of Mephala's true assassins.
Those who upheld her chaotic will, rather than a separate organization commanded solely by Sithis. Their claim of Sithis could be a reinterpretation, a convenient narrative.
Or even a deliberate misdirection, serving a deeper, more ancient loyalty.
And consider this. Their focus on marrying business with death, that blend of pragmatism and ritual. Does that fit Mephala?
It aligns perfectly with her sphere. She's known for interfering in mortal affairs not for grand conquest, but for her own amusement and profit, weaving sordid webs of intrigue and betrayal for the sheer delight of it.
Sources describe her as caring very little for the safety and well-being of mortals and taking great pleasure in strife.
Exactly. Every assassination, every whispered secret, every calculated betrayal within the Brotherhood could be seen as fulfilling her dark whims, enriching her web, amplifying the discord she so relishes.
Even that Mephala mantra, lust is love, lies are truth, death is life, could be subtly reflected in their actions even if they don't say it. Their whole existence, embracing murder as a lifestyle.
Could be a living embodiment of Mephala's dark philosophy, a grand performance for the spider. The focus on secrets, backstabbing, personal gain, especially in later, more cynical iterations, could be directly attributed to Mephala's influence rather than Sithis' cosmic hunger.
This theory also offers a radically different lens on their decline and internal struggles, instead of a failure of Sithis' will or a breakdown of a cult.
Their chaos, betrayals, devastating losses, Belamont's revenge, Astrid's treachery could be interpreted not as failures, but as a reflection of Mephala's inherent delight in chaos and betrayal itself. She thrives on instability.
So maybe their struggles, their self-inflicted wounds, their dance with oblivion are simply part of her grand, morbid design, a continuous performance for the spider Daedra.
It's a compelling argument. It makes you question everything. Is the silence of the Night Mother during Cicero's watch, for instance, not Sithis' disfavor, but Mephala simply withholding her direct influence, delighting in the chaos and desperation?
Wow. Okay. As we wrap up this deep dive into the shifting shadows of the Dark Brotherhood, we see an organization that has danced on the very edge of oblivion for centuries, its fate constantly hanging in the balance.
A testament to both its dark resilience and its inherent self-destructive tendencies. Their existence in 4E201, especially in Skyrim, perfectly encapsulates this precariousness and the contradictory nature we've explored.
The lore presents you, the listener, with conflicting fates for their future, doesn't it?
It really does. The Brotherhood could be mostly wiped out by the Penitus Oculatus, the Emperor's elite guard after Astrid's death, seemingly ending their long reign of terror. Or, in a fascinating, morally complex twist, they could survive with the last Dragonborn you, if you chose that path, becoming the listener, assassinating Emperor Titus Mede II, and relocating to the Dawnstar Sanctuary.
Signaling a potential rebirth, a resurgence guided by the Night Mother's renewed voice after that long silence, implying maybe the old ways of devotion can be restored.
Regardless of which path is taken or which interpretation of their origins you lean towards, their legacy of shadow, murder, and the chilling Black Sacrament continues to haunt Tamriel.
Yeah.
They are a persistent, adapting force.
That either finds a way to endure against all odds, reforming and reasserting its dark will,
Or fades back into the void from which they claim to originate, waiting for another chance to rise. They are a constant reminder that in Tamriel, death is never truly the end, and the shadows always whisper.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to ponder, a question that lingers after exploring these dark depths, after sifting through the conflicting accounts, the gruesome rituals, the internal strife, the decline, and that very confusing connection to both Sithis and maybe Mephala. We have to ask ourselves, is the Dark Brotherhood truly serving the primordial force of Sithis, perpetually striving to swell the void with souls as their foundational legend claims?
Or are they perhaps a more pragmatic, self-serving cult of assassins, unwitting pawns, or even devoted agents of a darker, more manipulative patron like Mephala, weaving a web of intrigue and death for her own amusement? What do you think their true purpose is in the grand, chaotic tapestry of Tamriel?
We've explored the whispers and the shadows, the blood and the business. Now, the choice of interpretation, the decision of their true nature, rests with you, the curious mind who has joined us on this deep dive.
Stay curious, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.